Welcome to Barn Banter, the podcast by Horse Illustrated. Each month, we bring guests to educate, entertain, or inspire you as you pursue the horsey lifestyle. I'm Susan Friedland, an equestrian author, blogger, and speaker with a soft spot for off-track thoroughbreds. You can find me at my blog, saddleseekshorse.com, or on Facebook or Instagram at saddleseekshorse.
And I'm Holly Kakamis, editor-in-chief of Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazines. You can find us at horseillustrated.com, youngrider.com, and Horse Illustrated and Young Rider on Instagram and Facebook.
Holly, you're not going to believe this.
What? What have you got for me, Susan?
Okay, so I met our next guest in person, and it was like the way it came about was thanks to social media. So Sydney Collier, who is a Paralympic dressage rider, she represented Team USA in Rio for the 2016 Equestrian Paralympics. She was at a horse show near where I live. And I knew of Sydney because my friend Heather Wallace, who is a fellow horsebook author, worked on writing a book that is coming out or just came out. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go over there and say hello because I feel as though I know her a little bit. And so she was at Lamplight Equestrian Center for the Festival of Champions. And so it was really cool. So I walked over to her and she has this really handsome standard poodle. That's her service dog. And I got to pet him. But I was just like, hey, Sydney, my name's Susan and I'm friends with Heather. And she's talked a lot about you, said such good things. And I feel like, you know, I sort of know you. And she was so friendly and we just chatted and laughed and it was like we were instant friends. It was a really cool experience. So it's going to be fun to talk to her today and find out more about her journey from horse-loving 7-year-old to a diagnosis of a very rare condition, and then how she fought back and continues to ride and continues to be awesome.
And the first place I ever saw Sydney was in a giant full-page ad in Horse Illustrated magazine. And
what?
Yeah, I wonder if I have. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it, but a copy.
Wait, was this like way back in the day?
No, this was
or
like in the last couple months.
Oh.
Well, I'll keep looking for it. But,
yeah.
So I just thought, oh, well, that's so interesting because, you know, there is a lot more representation these days in, you know, advertising and catalogs and things, but you don't often see, you know, a Paralympic rider in, you know, the shiny, beautiful horse ad. So I think that's fantastic. And I forgot to mention it during our interview with her, which you'll hear in a minute, but I just wanted to mention it right now, like, yay for her. And she was just really sweet and just so the spark within her to like get it done and achieve her dreams. I think you're going to be so inspired to listen to. So that is my take. Susan, anything to add?
Yeah. And the other thing, when I was talking with her, I just said, you know, Sydney, is your story something that is like only for equestrians and horse loving people, or and the book is called Beyond Expectations that she and Heather Wallace co-wrote. And she said, no, it was written so, you know, if you have other friends, maybe that are struggling with health diagnoses or just, you know, like good stories where someone overcomes obstacles. It's got a wider audience base. So I think that's really cool.
That's good. Well, you can decide for yourself, but I think you'll want to read this book after hearing the interview. And so I think, is it out now? Do we know for sure if it's out or about to be out? Either way.
About to be out. I think by the time this is live, it's going to be out and ready for purchase.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, enjoy the interview. For over 30 years, Adequan IM, polysulfated glycosaminoglycan, has been trusted by veterinarians, trainers, and horse owners. Ask your veterinarian if Adequan is right for your horse. Visit Adequan.com to learn more. Adequan, start with it, stay with it.
Heather and Sydney, we are so excited to have you on the show. And to start off with, I think you guys probably know each other pretty well at this point because you've collaborated writing the book for a few years at least. So Heather, why don't you introduce Sydney, and then Sydney will have you introduce Heather.
I feel like I'm in middle school all over again. Okay. So we do know each other quite well. And thank you guys so much for having me on to the podcast. Sydney Collier, I'm going to use her official name, is probably one of the coolest people I've ever met. So she has been a para dressage competitor at the Rio Games. She's gone to Tokyo, and she is, even though she was not there this year, she is actually like one of the best riders and people I've ever met. And we wrote this little book together called Beyond Expectations, which is her story of how she is living with this incredible diagnosis of something that nobody else is really alive with. And she lives every day to her fullest. So that's my intro. She's the coolest person I know.
Okay, Sydney, now tell us all about Heather.
No pressure.
Oh man, I don't know how I followed that up, Heather. However, one small correction there, Heather. I was not in Tokyo. I was supporting Team USA in a whole different way for the Tokyo 2021 Paralympic Games. I was actually the first traveling reserve, so that meant that I only got as far as training camp for Aachen. Okay, but also I second that Heather is literally my favorite person. It's crazy because from the moment I first met her, we just connected on a whole other level, right?
It was a meet cute.
The same sense of humor, we were almost the same person. And so Heather is an extremely accomplished speaker, author, mom, overall equestrian, wife. Like, man, her accolades, they go far and wide. And like, I could talk all day about Heather. I love Heather so much.
Aww.
And just the way that she gave my story a voice and really embodied me for Beyond Expectations in a way that I never really knew possible is something so cool to see come to fruition in the published book, right? Like, it's absolutely crazy to have it out there in the world now.
Okay, so now let's back up a little bit on the timeline here. And Sydney, before we get into the meat of learning more about your journey and the book that the two of you worked on together, I would love to hear about your horses, because you said before we started recording, you just came back from the barn. So I want to hear about your current horses that you ride. And disclosure, I did meet Sydney a couple weeks ago at a horse show local to where I live, and she has a pretty cool dog. So we want to hear about the pets.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could talk about them all day. I'm not going to lie. So my current ride, Bell Bottoms, she is a incredibly awesome Oldenburg mare, and she's actually a chestnut mare, but she shatters all of the stereotypes that go along with being a chestnut mare. She's got such a personality, and she's very motherly towards me, right? Like she and I just immediately connected from my very first ride on her, and I've been lucky enough to work with her for about a year and a half now. And we were one of the newer horse and rider combinations vying for a spot on the team for the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. And we ultimately ended up as one of the alternates for Paris. So we ended up having the honor of heading to Festival of Champions together and competing at Lamplight. And she was so incredible at Lamplight. And what makes Beeves so special is that when we first got her, she had absolutely zero show experience. So all of the show experience that she has, my trainer and I have put on her, and I have been there every step of the way with her in the show ring. And that's something that throughout my entire equestrian journey, I have never had the opportunity to start right from square one with the horse. So that to me really means the world. And then circling back to my awesome standard poodle, Logan, man, I could talk all day about him. So being my service dog, he really gives me my freedom when it comes to my mobility out of the saddle, right? So I'm covered when it comes to riding, and then I'm covered out of the saddle with Logan because he wears a harness and he helps me walk. Like, so if I'm unsteady, he automatically readjusts for me, and he's honestly way cooler than any cane anyone could ever have, right? Like, he's the coolest.
He's such a gentleman. Like, he's a gentleman, very posh.
He is. He's so posh.
They get along, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Logan get along. They would have to, of course.
Oh, yeah. But what's funny is that Beebs really, really wants to, be like besties with Logan. And she'll like go up to him and be like nuzzling him, right? And Logan will let her do it for a second, and then all of a sudden he'll realize kind of what's happening, and then he'll get all shy. He'll be like, "Mom, hold me! Like, I don't know what just happened," right? Like he has an intense respect for horses, whereas my previous service dog would literally just go and lick the nostrils of my horse at the time, Wentworth. Like, they had a whole bromance going on.
Oh my gosh.
And Logan, he just kind of enjoys watching a little bit more from afar, and he totally respects that she keeps me safe in a different way, right? But he's with the horses, he's not the run up and lick their nostrils type.
Okay, so I have your book right here, Beyond Expectations, and I'm going to read just the first little paragraph. For 7 years, Sydney Collier enjoyed the life of a happy, active child. She fell in love with four-legged animals, especially horses. The dream of one day competing as an equestrian in the Olympic Games was born. Then a routine eye exam changed everything. Okay, so
chills.
We want to read the book. We want our listeners to, pick up your book and read. But tell us a little bit how you went from being a horse lover and having a diagnosis of something rare, and then being a Paralympian. Like, that's pretty amazing.
Oh, you're going to have to summarize that, Sid. That's
I know. Maybe okay, so give us a little snapshot of you as a happy little kid who loved horses first, and then maybe the initial challenge you faced.
Yeah. Okay. So, as a kid, I tried absolutely every sport known to mankind, and totally none of them clicked, right? And then one day, just totally by chance, I asked my mom, you know what? I think I would like to try riding lessons. And immediately from the moment I first sat on a pony, I could tell, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do with my life. For whatever reason, it just clicked.
Well,
and
I want to interject here. Your mom used to ride, so she was very happy with this situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was like the next day she had me signed up. Like, throughout my whole childhood, there were like little things, like she would sign me up for like the little like Easter pony ride, right? Or like she would get me the Breyer horses, and the horses were always an undercurrent of my childhood. She was always, I think, planting the seed because she knew that it could be something really, really good for me and really cool for me. And then it all rang true. It's like she knew it was all going to happen that way, right?
It would become a lifeline for you almost.
Yeah. And then I immediately, from the moment I first started riding, I told my parents, you know what? I'm going to represent the USA on the Olympic team for eventing. And what's really cool is that my parents never made me feel like I was crazy, which like coming from a 7-year-old being like, I am going to represent the USA for eventing could sound a little bit crazy, right? But my family, they're very different, right? And then I totally could have, like, I got sidelined by this crazy diagnosis. And ultimately, it led me to having my first stroke when I was 11. And throughout rehab, the only thing that kept me pushing forward were the horses and the desire to ride again. So coming back from this stroke, I struggled to find myself again, quite honestly, in all facets of my life, even in my riding life, which was not something I was prepared for. I wasn't prepared for this pushback from every angle. And then I was lucky enough to go to the World Equestrian Games in 2010 and watch para-dressage happening there for the very first time. And it was like this light bulb moment for me. I saw these athletes out there who represented who I was. And I saw, oh my gosh, I don't have to give up on these huge goals just because my body is different, just because things aren't clicking the way that they used to. I can adapt. And to me, I think that that's why representation matters so much within sports and within every facet of life, so that people who are different can see people out there who represent who they are, accomplishing things that they want to, so that they can see themselves in these people and have this epiphany moment that okay, this is possible. I can do this, right? And for me, that's why sharing my story was something so important to me, to encourage more representation and to encourage people to go out there and strive for their own goals.
That was at the Kentucky Horse Park, right? In 2010. And did you and your family travel there because you knew that there was the Paralympic athletes, or was it just you wanted to be a part of this thing? Like, did you already know it existed, or was that when you were first introduced and then you were like, hey, okay, now this is what I'm going for? Like,
actually, it was funny because I was going through a serious funk and my mom found out about it. and me being the eventer I was like, no. Dressage is that phase that we get through so that we can go fast and jump over large immovable objects, right? And so I was like, no, that sounds lame. So
gotta love the honesty of a teenager.
I know. And Holly, I'm looking at Holly's face because Holly is an eventer also. So I think she's resonating with everything you're saying right now.
God, you guys are...
I've said the same thing about dressage, so I feel you.
So effectively, my mom had to drag me there, like kicking and screaming, right? Like my eventing soul, I was like, I couldn't possibly like this dressage thing. I couldn't possibly.
Except then you saw the very cute dressage riders. It changed your mind completely.
Yeah. As I'm like limping myself in there, I'm met with this like tattooed, good-looking rider named.
Do it.
Yeah.
Name him. Drop it.
Who is it?
Drop the name.
Oh,
we put it in the book.
God,
You might as well admit it on air.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it'll drive people to have to pick up the
That's
book,
right.
to know
Yeah.
who this.
Oh, all
Words
right. So
I might have a picture of that too.
yeah, there might be a photo of our very first meeting with this adorable
As
character.
Susan checks the inside of the book. But yeah.
And me just fangirling my 14-year like yeah.
But for real, you saw them and you watched them do it, and then you met your mentor and you got tested right away, like on site at the Kentucky Horse Park.
Yeah. I had this moment that was something out of a movie, right? Like I was sitting in this or a book.
So beyond expectations, perhaps.
Dare we say. So I had this like epiphany moment, right? Where it all clicked for me and I saw myself in these athletes and I realized, man, if they can do it, so can I. And it was then that I told my mom and my grandma who was there with me, I said, next World Equestrian Games and next Paralympics, that's going to be me. Right? Like, and that was the moment I got my fire back after my stroke, right? I was super young and I had gotten my fire back.
When you got your fire back, isn't this the moment you walked up to Jonathan and said, you look like somebody I have to know?
Yeah, I walked up to him. I introduced him. I introduced myself to him, and I gave that awesome line. I said,
"She's got game.
You look like someone I should know," and it turned out he really was someone I should know, and he put himself out there at the biggest sporting event of his life, and he introduced me to the president of the USPEA, and he helped me get classified there at the World Equestrian Games. Like my very first experience with paradressage, and I was already getting classified, right? Like I was already getting my start, all thanks to Jonathan.
And one thing you should know about Sid is, and that I've learned over the years since I've known her, is like if she wants something, she's going to make it happen. Like it's going to happen. And she's got that drive and that motivation. It's unbelievable.
Did you say the same thing to Heather? Because now I want to know about your meet cute moment. And then I also want to ask you about, like, do you still get nervous? I mean, you don't know. So I've got so many questions, but let's go to Heather.
Yeah. Tell me how you met me. What did you think about me across the room? I want to know.
So Allison and Connie from Reading Goat, I definitely have to shout them out for introducing us, because we got to talking and you know, Heather plugged her book.
Actually, Connie plugged my book. I'm very bad at plugging my own books. Thank you.
So which book was it?
It was Confessions of a Timid Rider. We were at Equitana at the Kentucky Horse Park in 2019.
Okay.
And she found out I wrote a book and she goes, I don't read books.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not much of a confession of Sydney, I guess. I'm not much of a book reader, but apparently I'm more of a book writer, co-author, I guess. But so we just got to talking and we were laughing, and it turned out that Heather had a daughter with CP, and we just had the exact same sense of humor and like tone in the way we talked and communicated. And in our first conversation, because I'm kind of, when it comes to social interactions, I'm very much like put it out there, and it doesn't hurt to just see what happens, right?
She is the epitome of an extrovert.
Yeah. No one ever said I don't talk enough.
Well, so what happened was she went and she read the book, right? And we kept in touch.
First, I just immediately, when I met you, I said, Heather, maybe you should write my story. Or I
said, I don't do that.
I said it more like, Heather, you should write my story. I don't think I even asked a question. And you said, well, you should read my book first. And so I went home and I read a whole book. That was quite an accomplishment.
There's a plug right there. Well, if Sid could finish it, I guess it's not that bad.
No, but like throughout this, I read your book so fast. And like what really stuck with me as I was reading it was, man, the tone of this book is like I'm writing it. Like I saw myself in it, right? And then we met again at Equine Affair, and I'm like, Heather, guess what? I read your book.
I would love to know, like, how does one write the story of another person? You know, like what was your thinking process like?
Oh my God. Well, I tell you, it was probably the most difficult challenge ever, not because I was working with Sid, because clearly she's awesome, but it was, how do I embody Sid in a book, right? How do I speak in her words? So what we decided to do was we were going to Zoom and do like a chapter each time we chatted, or a theme. And so it kind of kept us, we had an outline and it kept us organized. And then of course, as one tends to do, we tend to veer off topic a little bit. So we would record the video, and I would kind of interview her, and I'd get her telling her stories, or I'd ask questions. And then what I would do is I'd get off the computer and I would write as if I was Sid retelling the story. And then I would obviously, you know, adjust the language a little or add more description and detail. But it was a challenge because I just wanted to make sure I did her justice. And then the first time I sent you chapters, what did you do? You cried.
Again.
Or like tragic tears.
I was like, please tell me these are happy.
They were certainly happy. Aww. My biggest thing was just like seeing it out there, and it was just so written in my tone. It was surreal, really. Like I'm very much a talker and not a writer. When it comes to writing, I just overthink it all way too much to like
add a
make
lot
the commitment.
Of exclamation points.
I do. It's like every sentence ends with an exclamation point.
No, there would be like 3 or 4 exclamation points, and I was like, let's just pare that back. But I think the tone came out. I think everybody, when they read it, it's going to have your same tone. It's just going to be a little bit more muted.
Okay, so now I would love to know, so what was that like to represent? I mean, I know people will want to read it in the book, but just real quick, if possible, like to represent the United States of America in Rio and like be doing the things and like be famous, really.
For one, I would definitely never consider myself famous. For one, I'm just like anyone else. I'm just out here living my life and working hard to accomplish my goals. And for me, Rio and WEG were these very unique opportunities to get to step out there and see all of this hard work pay off in such a tangible way, right? Like the feeling of riding down center line at both of those events is something that I've been striving to put into words ever since, right? Like I don't know that there will ever be the right combination of words to really describe that feeling of years of hard work and adaptation paying off in such a large way, and in getting to be part of something so much bigger than yourself, and getting to be part of Team USA and to represent the USA with such an incredible team of paradressage riders.
And do you, like, so for example, you just competed recently at Lamplight. Like, do you still get nervous, or is it not, like, because it's not such a world stage? Or like, how do you go into each competition?
So post Rio, I've done a lot of work with a sports psychologist, because through Rio, I always said, no. I have no such thing as show nerves. I have no show nerves. My strokes took care of all of that. I'm a super level-headed person. And then I post Rio, I did some reflecting, and yeah, it turns out I have some show nerves. So I've done a lot of working with a sports psychologist to really come up with a routine that helps me to hone in on my mental fortitude for competitions. It's pretty funny because at Lamplight, I was in the best headspace I would say I've ever been, but I had like the craziest leg spasms ever thrown at me on the first day of competition. And then day 2, I majorly overcorrected because I had zero trust in my body. And then day 3, I found that trust again. This was such an accelerated time frame, right? Like, I've lost trust in my body before, but having it happen at a show in the show ring was something completely different for me to experience, right? Like, I think that the mental and physical challenges posed to us as equestrians in the show ring or at home are always so interesting to reflect on and try and solve that puzzle, because we're not just having to think about ourselves, we're having to communicate with 1,000-pound animal with a mind of their own that might not have woken up on the right side of the stall that day. and I think that that's just what makes our sport so unique, is that it almost forces us to be our most adaptable versions of ourselves, because we could wake up one day and have one plan and our horse has a completely different plan. So for me, as a para-equestrian athlete, really the horses helped me to have the leg up on adapting from the get-go when it came to healing from all the strokes that I ultimately ended up having.
And we're kind of winding down a little bit, but I've heard you use the word adapt and adaptation quite a bit. And I can see on the cover of your book that you ride dressage. Is it one-handed?
I do, yeah.
Are there other adaptations, like with your tack or anything else that, you've had to do differently since your early days of riding before you had the stroke?
So it's interesting because I started out with a whole lot of adaptations in my ride. And nowadays I'm riding like the least adapted I ever have, thanks to working out, thanks to being my strongest version of myself. Right now, the only adaptations, knock on wood, I really use right now are magnetic stirrups, and my one-handed rein. And that list used to be so much longer. And really, as para-equestrians, we're always working on finding the right adaptation for, and a sling. I also use a sling to hold my left arm close to my body. We're always working on finding the right adaptations that work for our body at any given moment in time.
Holly, you've been quiet over there. Did you want to?
She's just in awe of Sydney. I can tell.
I know.
She's the most humble girl in the world.
No, I love your story and just the grit of when you saw that and you were like, I'm going to do this. And I liked reading a little bit about how your family just changed everything and people were moving across the country. Can you tell us how they supported you with that?
Oh man, like Heather and I, throughout this entire project, we basically said, Sid, this book is like a love letter to your your family. And I'm like, it really is, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. I could still be in the hospital for all we know. I could be not here, that's for sure. And they have made so many sacrifices for me to accomplish these goals. Whether it came to my mom and I needing to move from Ann Arbor, Michigan, all the way to New York to pursue the training. And literally, my mom and I still live across the country from the rest of my family. My family is still based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and my mom and I are based out of Wellington, Florida, for training purposes. And I have my family to thank for believing in me and my drive enough to be willing to make these sacrifices, right? Like, it takes a very special family to back someone so wholeheartedly. And they definitely always saw how the horses were what kept me pushing forward and kept me striving for my goals.
And I think the other thing we didn't really touch on very much, but I'm sure listeners would be curious about, was your diagnosis. What is it? And people probably haven't heard of it. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
My diagnosis, I actually wasn't diagnosed until I was 7 years old. And it's Wyvern-Mason syndrome. Less than 1,000 people on Earth have Wyvern-Mason syndrome diagnosed. So that's a very small number of people. So it was just like totally by chance that I was even diagnosed, let alone live to be 7 years old. Essentially, Wyvern-Mason, it consists of a tumor with very, very high blood flow called an AVM deep inside the brain and one behind the right eye. And these have really high risk of rupture and bleed, and ultimately can be as catastrophic as death. The odds were definitely not in my favor or my family's favor, but they were never willing to take that as an answer. They sought out experimental treatment in California, and the experimental treatments led me to being where I am today. I don't want to give away too much from the book. I'm trying to be very I'm trying to be very calculated about what I say, right?
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I like, this is my first, like, kind of foray into being an author. So, like, I don't know. Book press.
We're excited. I do. This is going to be my lingering question if I don't ask this. And maybe you'll just say you've got to read the book. But how did you come to terms and find peace in being a dressage rider?
I thought you were going to ask something way more like macabre than that. So that's good.
About the tattooed gentleman that we referred to earlier.
Did you find the photo in the book?
Oh, I have photos.
Well, yeah, but I don't see any tattoos because he's wearing a riding jacket.
Oh yeah.
He's looking all proper.
Tell us, how did you, because maybe Holly will pick up some tips from you.
Honestly, I got into it, right? Which was like unexpected, and maybe it's my slight type A personality. It really, I began practicing it, and I put myself out there into the show ring, and I got my first, I'm sure, like, very, very subpar score at, like, my first dressage show. I was like, you know what? I need to improve this. And it was very addictive. The desire to improve. And it also occurred to me pretty early on, like, man, as an event rider, if I had liked dressage, my other two phases probably would have been a little bit better, right? Because there's a lot of stuff from dressage that really carries over nicely into the cross country field and also show jumping. So that's kind of how I came to terms with it. And it just was so addictive, right? Like, the relationship with the horse is what always kept me coming back for more.
Very cool. This has been so much fun to have both of you on the show. And where can people find both of you? Where can they find the book? Like, we want to follow you, and I'm sure our listeners do too. We'll have it in the show notes also, but...
So the book can be found at Trafalgar Square Books. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and probably your local tack shop. And it's available in ebook and paperback. And you can find me online at Timid Rider. That's TIMIDRIDER. I don't know how a girl like me ended up becoming friends with Sid, but, you know.
Who's not timid at all.
Who's not timid. She's the opposite. But here we are. And my website is timidrider.com.
And me, I'm at Sid's Paraquest, SYDSPARAQUEST. And my website is www.sidsparaquest.com.
Yay. Thank you. This was just so fun.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was such a blast talking with you both.
For special rates on Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazine subscriptions just for our podcast listeners, visit horseillustrated.com/barnbanter. Well, hey, Allison, thanks for joining us today.
Hello, thanks for having me. I appreciate you all reaching out and featuring us.
Absolutely. So can you just tell us, before we get to the horse, a little bit about the group and where it's located, and if you guys have a specialization, some particular type of horse or all animals? I know some take large, small, donkeys. Like, what's your rescue group all about?
Yes, so I'm a volunteer with Horse and Hound Rescue. We're located in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and we focus on off-the-track thoroughbred racehorses. So we take them directly from the racetrack and the owners. We have we've built solid relationships with the owners and the breeders and the trainers to find them almost like a preventative option, to find them a good home so that they don't end up in a bad situation. So we take the ones that are too slow, or not your Kentucky Derby winners, of course, your slow or injured ones. We rehab them. We start them under like training to get them to be like a good citizen, and then adopt them out to a forever home. So that's the horse part. We also obviously have hounds. So we do senior dogs. So we're a senior dog sanctuary, and we have around 50 senior dogs right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know about that part. That's interesting. So is it a certain breed you see more of with the dogs, or all kinds?
All kinds, everything from little Chihuahuas to Great Dane mixes. So anything and everything for the dogs.
Oh,
we take most of our dogs come from the shelter.
Really cool.
That's going to be like an owner surrender if they have to go to a nursing home or if the owner passes away, just to give them a safe landing for their golden years.
Oh, I love it. That's great to hear. And then with the thoroughbreds, I know there's been a lot of talk recently. I think this is so important as someone who's owned several off-track thoroughbreds myself, is having that option where trainers know they can send a horse that's just a little bit slow to you and have it find a great home instead of, keeping it on the track as the only option where it will get an injury and not be as adoptable. So I love that you mentioned that, because I think that's really important. Are you near a particular track where you're located?
Yes. So we're actually the only rescue in the state of Oklahoma that focuses on taking them straight from the track. And we have long-lasting relationships with Remington Park, which is the local racetrack here in Oklahoma City, and then also Will Rogers Downs up in Claremore, Oklahoma. And that's over by Tulsa. But we also will get them from, Sam Houston racetrack in Texas. But most of ours come from our local track here, which is Remington and the track in Claremore.
So today our featured horse is called A Lot of Heat, and he is a 6-year-old gelding. Looks pretty tall, 16'3", dark bay, very handsome. Can you tell us about him?
Well, like you said, he is a tall, dark, and handsome guy. A lot of heat. He's very smart. He wants to connect with you. So we are very active on Facebook, and you can actually see a video of him doing following us with an imaginary lead rope. So he's always wants to be with you. We've trotted him here. We don't really get to the cantering part as much with our horses just because we're trying to get them to slow down, not speed up. So he's doing great under saddle. He's, like you said, 6 years old, so he's already a little bit older. He's got a good brain on his shoulders. He's very friendly. And then he's very good at selfies as well. He's always up in your face whenever you're trying to video record him.
I love it. That sounds cute. And do you have any particular type of rider you think he'd be best for? I guess you don't know if he would jump yet because you haven't tried, but does he seem like more of a relaxed type or more of a high energy?
He does have a little bit more energy, so probably not a beginner, but he's completely sound. He came in with no injuries, so he could jump. He could really go any direction. So we really would probably think that he'd be great at dressage. And now with the Western dressage world being so popular, he would be beautiful in that. He's got a really, really pretty trot, and he holds himself really nicely. But he could also do jumping or just trail riding, whatever really, he's going to help choose his person. So whatever that person chooses him for and that he chooses them back, that's going to be the opportunity for him. But his options are endless.
I love it. And how does it work if someone's interested? Can they come trial ride, or do they have to watch someone ride him there until they bring him home? Or how do you guys do that?
Yeah, so you would just call us up, and we're all volunteer based. So we would just plan a day that we're going to have volunteers out. We have volunteer riders. So if you would like us to ride for you, we can. But if not, you're welcome to ride him. We do have a round pen and an arena. And then the first step is obviously filling out an adoption application. And all of that's available on ASPCA Right Horse, which is where all of our horses are also located. And then through our website, which is horseandhoundrescue.com. But once you do the adoption application, you call us up, we can schedule that. And then, like I said, come on out and you can meet him.
Perfect. Well, we will have the link to him in our show notes, and we'll put some pictures up on the site so everyone can see how handsome this guy is. He's just shiny and looks great and ready to go. So hopefully we'll help find him a home soon. But thank you so much for joining us today, Allison.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all having us. And then I was going to say, he came in last November, and he actually has had a big growth spurt. So when we measured him in November, he was 16 hands, and now he's 16.3. So he's definitely like a big boy.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he's one of those that grew at the tail end, but he's a big boy. That's wild. Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. And I know a lot of people that ride English and venting and sport horse, they love those tall horses. So
exactly.
I think there'll be a lot of interest in this one.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Don't be shy. Show us some barn banter love by leaving a review, and you can tell all your friends too.